Hi guys, welcome to the Buy Hold Long YouTube channel. My name is Caleb and today I want to talk to you about the future. Now I know that's a pretty open sort of topic, but today I was talking to a work colleague and we were discussing things about the future. More specifically, we were talking about energy. Where do we see the world going in the next 10, 20, 30, 50 years? Do we see the Australia or the world using coal? Probably not. Or do we start seeing more things like nuclear power being used more worldwide? That's something that Australia quite hasn't done yet. It's something that's definitely on the agenda right now. So quite a few people have made predictions about the future. I'd be wondering about three things. Three things that humans need to survive. They are food, water, and shelter. And I want to show you how that can be used as a solid investment for the next 20, 50, 60 years. So my wife and I are having our first child and we were wondering about what the future might hold. What does that hold for food security? What does that hold for water security and housing? So what we're going to look at is 3 ETFs or stocks that are directly related to food, water, and housing or property. This could be expanded on a little bit further with things like technology and robotics, and also defense, healthcare, and so on. But for the sake of this video, what we're going to look at is the 3 that I've talked about: food, water, shelter, as in housing or business property, more real estate.
So this is one of the things that I was talking about. One of the 3 things that we all need to survive. Sorry about my work outfit. And one of those 3 things that we need to survive is food. Now, I'm not talking about frozen pizzas, I'm not talking about roast chickens. What I'm talking about is this: agriculture. Now, you may be wondering why I think agriculture is going to be such an important thing in the future. Well, first of all, population's continuing to grow, as we all know. Secondly, as there's more people starting to get away from meat, such as sheep and cattle, pigs, etc., even chicken as well. More and more people are going vegetarian. Now, if they're not eating meat, where are they getting their protein? They're going to get their protein from other sources like lentils, peas, wheats and other grains. Obviously, because they are vegetarian ways to get your protein. And to produce these products, you need the land availability to do that. And where else are you going to get land? Not much new land is created every year. It's getting harder and harder to get by, and the bigger farms are only getting bigger. Smaller hobby farms are starting to get bought out by the larger farms. The top 20 landholders in Australia actually own more land than France does. That's how big Australia is. And the top 20 landholders in Australia also own more land than 5 times the size of England. Australia is just very large and has a huge amount of farming land, and I think that farming will be one of the future growers of the Australian economy, and it probably will be for many years. Now, farming's not without its downfalls as well, as a pigeon flies by. The farming industry obviously relies heavily on rainfall, and some farms also rely on irrigation, which comes down to the second point that I wanted to talk about, which was water. But I'll talk about that in just a minute. So, as you can see, we've got quite a bit of hay and straw in here. We use that for livestock, and we also use it for the business that my dad runs, and I work with him. But the biggest detractor of that is, as we are experiencing a drought in Australia, there is a increased price in commodities such as grains and hay, especially oats. A lot of people are struggling to even find it, and when you are able to find it, you're paying real big money to purchase the oats and straw. As you can see here, we've got a little bit here, but that's mainly for the business. That all there is just straw, so that's a lot cheaper. But then we've got all our oats. I'll try and get my finger. All these here are oat and hay, and it's very expensive at the moment. And the way this winter is going, it is starting to look like it's quite dry. So we'll most likely experience another Probably not as bad as last year or the year before with the drought, but it's going to be probably more expensive again next year, which makes it harder to raise your sheep, your cattle and everything, and the prices of those animals increase, as do the price of your hay. It really comes down to a balance of what you can provide the animals for food and what you can sell them for. At the moment, these are my brother's sheep, and he's not making a huge amount of money off them. We do have quite a supply of hay and straw, but the price of lamb has actually skyrocketed. It's actually, the record's been broken 3 times in the past month, I think it is, here in South Australia, all from local people in our area who've raised these sheep and lambs and then sold them off. So there is money to be made in livestock and agriculture. I think, like I said, as the world's population continues to grow, there's going to be more desire for quality meat, also a desire for things such as lentils, peas and other vegetarian options for proteins. And I think Australia's prime position to provide that source for the middle-class Asian increase, especially in China.
So the second thing I wanted to talk about was water use. And as you can see in this infographic, which is supplied by McCrindle, you can see that the average Australian uses 75 kilolitres per year, and that's per person. So that's nationwide. It does change depending on which state you're in. Obviously, the more northern states like WA and NT use a bit more. But water is a pretty simple one to get your head around. We all need water to drink, we need water for agriculture, and we also need water for general life. So I've got a short clip here by the ABC, and we'll take a quick look at that now.
As the driest inhabited continent on Earth, Australia punches above its weight when it comes to food production. The nation outputs the equivalent of 3 times what it needs, despite being awash with extremes of temperature and droughts and floods resulting from some of the most variable rainfall patterns in the world. According to the Bureau of Statistics, the mining industry accounts for 4% of water consumption. Manufacturing takes up about 5%, and households account for 12.5%. Agriculture accounts for 54% of the nation's water. More than a third of that water, or nearly 1/5 of all water consumed, goes on just 3 things: sheep, beef cattle and grain farm irrigation. There's also a big variation in how much we pay for distributed water. Households in 2010-11 paid an average of $2.44 per kilolitre. Farmers paid 14 cents per kilolitre. The ABS says that for every gigalitre of water consumed, agriculture generated $4 million gross value. Manufacturing returned $166 million, and for mining, it was $243 million. But the story is more complex than the dollar returns itself. Agriculture is a major employer. It provides unquantifiable food security, and some farmers are considered to be on the front line of rehabilitating the nation's arable land after decades of intensive and often damaging farming practices. So the returns on water consumption can't necessarily be measured in raw monetary profits.
The last thing I wanted to talk about before we got on to what stocks I am looking at in regards to food, water and shelter is, of course, number 3, shelter, which is another pretty simple one. We all need shelter to live in, whether it's also for work, business, commercial property. Now, we all know property prices have been increasing for many, many years, and we are heading possibly towards a property bubble where the prices are super inflated and where the bubble supposedly pops and the prices of those properties head down and half or even less. But I think we're still quite a while away from something like that. So the stocks that I'm looking at, which I'm hoping to invest for the future. So the 3 sectors I'm looking at: food, water and shelter, real estate. The 2 in food I actually do own. I do own Rural Funds. So they are actually a real estate investment trust. So they're a REIT, but they hold farmland. And as you saw earlier in my video, I was talking about how farmland is harder to get and it's also increasing in price. Rural Funds is a
a farmland agriculture REIT that you can invest in. The second one I own is the food ETF, which is a Beta Shares agriculture ETF. So you can own that one, and they invest in the large agricultural companies throughout the world, like John Deere. They don't own stocks just in Australia, they invest worldwide, but that's a worldwide agriculture ETF. So there's two direct water security shares that you can buy on the ASX. One is Duxton Water, and they've performed really well over the past year. They invest primarily in water entitlements, and they sell them and lease them to farmers. The other one is Webster, which is a bit more complicated. It's a mixture of water and agriculture, but that's something that I'm looking further into. And finally, Shelter or real estate. There's obviously the Vanguard Australian Property. That's a really popular one that a lot of people invested in, and I think people will really hold on to that one for a lifetime, really. And another one that I actually do own is the unlisted APN Group Oz Property, which is APF01. So it's an open-ended fund where they purchase shares in listed property and unlisted, and they pay a monthly dividend as well. So they're the three sectors that I really like and think they will perform really well over the next 50 plus years, as I think everyone needs to eat. That's where agriculture and food comes in. Everyone needs to drink. Everyone needs water for the food. So that's where water security comes in, and also real estate. So whether that's for living, commercial property, I think real estate is also another one that's a long-term hold for me as well. If you've liked this video, then be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and hopefully I'll bring some more content that you like. Thanks for watching.